All right, this is episode 2 of ALI-M.O.N.Y, Ali, Mayor of New York. Basically, if I ran for the office of mayor, what would I do? What do I believe in? And so this is my way of talking through it so that I guess people can get to know me and I can get to know myself. And I think that's the most important thing to some degree, is getting to know ourselves. And because I have the luxury and the luck of having a device like this that I can just speak into, I can hear my thoughts and I can go, does that sound crazy? But to some degree, everything has to start out sounding crazy. I had to pause for a second because I'm in the office of our little theater and someone knocked on the door because this is where the printer is. So it goes. That's life. I'm in New York City today. It's Friday, September 29th. 2023. There has been massive flooding today due to the torrential downpours. 4 inches of rain, usually what you get in a whole month. Subways are flooded. Parking garages are flooded. I can't even imagine all the people who live in illegal basement housing, because that's the option they have with no window if those are flooded. It seems like even after 100 years of running trains, we still haven't figured out how they don't flood. We have small businesses as well, and yes, our basement of our bar flooded somewhat as well. But as I said, this is ALI-M.O.N.Y, A-L-I, Ali, or Ali, M-O-N-Y, Mayor of New York. Right now that's the call sign, although ALI-M.O.N.Y does bring up a lot of emotional issues for a lot of people. Because you're paying someone after a relationship has come to an end. Somebody's paying someone for a period of time. But it's a play on words. And for now, hey, it's a fine placeholder to figure out if, not necessarily running for mayor, because I've said, and I'll say this probably every episode that I do, as I talk about the various topics, I don't want to be mayor. I don't want to be a politician. However, those who are given much is expected, and politics should be the interruption to a career, not a career. My career for the past 2 decades has been comedy theater and small bars, and I've enjoyed it, and I like it. I like the environs, I like the people, I like being around a comedy theater, I like the people that come to comedy theaters who do improvisation, sketch comedy, solo performance, stand-up. They're good people. They want to make people laugh. They want stage time. They want to practice. They want to collaborate and create. But I also live in New York City, and I walk to work, and I walk a lot of places, and I take the bus on the daily, and I take the subway. But I'll usually take the bus now because when you go down to the subway, it can get precarious. So I do take the subway when I have to, but I prefer walking and taking the bus right now. And so these are my ideas that I hope get stolen, borrowed, utilized. Today I want to talk about congestion in New York City, the driving. The congestion in New York City in the 2 decades I've been here plus it's doubled in a way that is unmanageable. And the moment something happens, like a flood or a rain or a storm, it just becomes gridlock and you're in a parking lot. And a lot of people have brought up congestion pricing. And sure, that will raise money. But where's the money coming from? These people are already having to pay a great deal to live in New York City, park in New York City, pay for gasoline. And now you want to say, on top of that, we're going to charge you every time you come into a certain area of New York. Sure, it's an easy fix if you're not the person having to dole out the money every day. And what if you live in those areas? Are you going to have to pay to go home and pay to leave home? See, everyone always looks for a financial solution to a challenge. But the challenge is really very simple. You can fix this immediately with a non-financial solution. You say, well, how would you do that, Ali? Or Ali, and again, I don't listen for pronunciation. However you say my name, I'm fine with that. As long as you say it with love in your heart, and see me the way I see you, as the toddler you once were, as the baby who took first steps, as the human being you are, as the child of somebody. You can call me Ali, Allie, Big Al, Leafer, Papa Bear, Any of those. Or you come up with a new nickname as long as it's not, and again, if you want it to be derogatory, okay. I mean, at the end of the day, I am what I am, in terms of my size, my height, my color, my ethnicity, my country of origin. So any of those can be used to, say or make fun of me in some way. Okay, all right. I prefer not playing, roast battles or your mama games because, they always lead to hurt feelings. Roasting. I don't know. Do we need more roasting? Do we need more your mama jokes? What about, trying to treat each other like your mother is my mother and my mother is your mother and we are brothers and sisters and we're trying to figure this out on this island of Manhattan and the boroughs that surround it. And New York City is big enough that each of the 5 boroughs could be their own city. And I'm sure at some point people have thought about that. Do we need to stay and be the 5 boroughs, or can we not be 5 different cities? I suppose that because Manhattan brings in so much in terms of tax dollars, it has to utilize those tax dollars to be spread around the 5 boroughs. Because ultimately, how does a city make money? Through property tax, through, buses, trains, licenses, fees. If you have a business, you have to get a consumer affairs license to do business. You have to pay sales tax. You have to pay property tax. You have to pay capital gains tax. So I guess taxes is a big part of how a city makes. And I guess the tax base in New York is bigger than the other tax bases. Again, I don't want to talk forever on this. I want these. The first one was almost 59 minutes. I'd like to get out on under 29 minutes and 59 seconds on this one. Because really, how much do you need? You need something to listen to get to know me while I get to know myself, that if at some point these catch on and people listen to them and go, hey, this guy's as good as anybody to run for mayor. Because A, he's never been a politician. He's never held office. He doesn't want to be a politician. He wants to be a small-time comedian. And potentially, motivational speaker for those who want to go from, skinny fat, from fat to skinny fat. I mean, I want to help people who are not trying to go from fat to fit, but people who are just trying to go from fat to less fat, fat to skinny fat. That's the kind of motivational speaker I'd like to be. The guy who's like, hey, are you on your device 7 hours a day? Let's get it down to 3. All right, let's not get crazy. But a motivational speaker for those who just want to kind of get a little bit better. Not from minimum wage to millionaire, but from minimum wage to making a few more dollars an hour. But still enjoying your life. But in New York City right now, it's very precarious. It's getting crowded, and the streets are crowded with cars. Why? Well, there's not only yellow cabs, there's Ubers, Lyfts, although Lyft and Via seem to have kind of dissipated a little bit. I don't know if Via still exists in New York City. Uber is still here, so there's a lot of black cars, or TLC vehicles. There's Escalades. There's a lot more people being driven around in Escalades, truck vehicles. And then people have their own cars. And so the city gets crowded. But as I said, what is the non-financial solution to congestion? Pricing. Because why does that have to be our only choice to fix a problem? I believe it can be fixed using math. Very simple math. Odds and evens. On certain days, let's say just for argument's sake, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you are able to drive your vehicle into the city or wherever it's congested if your license plate ends in an odd number. On Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, you can drive into the city if it's an even number. Now that's it. And then if you drive on a day when it's only even numbers and you're an odd number, then you get a ticket. Then there has to be a consequence, right? And people are going to say, well, what about the rich guy who's got 2 cars with one with an even license plate and one with an odd license plate? That guy gets to drive every day. Yes, that's going to happen, of course. There's no way around it. The moment I even said it, somebody listening to this who's super wealthy is like, fine, here's how I game the system. I have 2 cars. I'm just going to get 2 license plates. And on even days, I'll drive my even license plate car. On odd days, I'll drive my odd one. We can't get caught up in the fact that some people are going to game the system. Right. You know, when people talk about a society where there's some equality, you know, people always go to the example of, well, what about Ferraris? How about if everybody wants a Ferrari? Not everybody wants a Ferrari. They don't want to deal with a Ferrari. They don't want to deal with parking the Ferrari. They don't want to deal with the insurance on a Ferrari. Now, they may want to go to a Ferrari park once a year for a weekend and drive a Ferrari around a racetrack and around some kind of wooded terrain, you know, Le Mans type course. But most people, I would say, like for me, if you said to me you can have a Ferrari, I'd go, I'm not interested in having a Ferrari. I don't want to deal with it. Now, if you said to me you can go somewhere for a weekend and drive a Ferrari and other cars like that once a year, okay, sure, yeah, that sounds fun. I don't mind that. But I don't want to be driving around the city in a Ferrari. I mean, do I need a vehicle? I don't even know if I need a vehicle. But if I did, it would be a vehicle that I wouldn't care about getting banged up, getting scratched, getting dinged. I would use it for what it is, which is a tool to go from A to B. I'd like to have some decent storage in the back, but, you know, to me, a decent minivan, you know, with a good hybrid engine, it's just like to, you know, you grab something on the street, you see something, go like, that's a nice end table. Or I don't know why someone's throwing that lamp away. Let me throw that in the back of this. I mean, in a different place in time, I would have liked to have gone around, and I may still do this at night, and I'll just drive around looking for cool Sanford & Son type items. And, you know, but then you got to get a warehouse somewhere, and you probably have to get it in the outer boroughs. And then what do? You fill your warehouse with stuff you got, and then it becomes Sanford & Son. And again, I would love to have been on a Sanford & Son type show. I would love to play Sanford and somebody play my son in a show like that, because there is a bit of me that is a hoarder. I love found stuff. I love things that I find. I love going to kind of closeout sales. I'm a sucker for a closeout sale. Whether it's a Sports Authority going out of business, which I saw a Sports Authority go out of business in my neighborhood. Then a Modell's went in there, and then the Modell's went out of business. Now it's a FedEx, and the other half of it is still empty. But that's the thing. It's interesting how Sports Authority didn't make it, and Modell says, oh, no, we can do it. But you're the exact same thing, and I think your color scheme is the same, too. What makes you think you're going to make it if Sports Authority didn't? And it was really sad. I loved having a Sports Authority in my neighborhood because if you needed something simple, you could go up there and grab it. And now, unfortunately, it's just order from Amazon. Whether it's a pair of swim trunks or, you know, swim goggles or whatever you need. And if you don't like it, you send it back. And so little by little, it's like, what happened to the sporting goods store in a city? Now, I know in smaller towns, you'll find them in malls and stuff. But again, this episode is about how do we reduce the congestion in the driving in New York. And as I said, it's getting it back down to basics. We have laws for everything. So all we have to do is simply say, one, reduce it without charging anybody, because no one's going to want to pay that price on the daily. However much you have to pay to come in, whatever that congestion pricing becomes. You know, I believe it'll start at $8, then go to $12, but nothing stays the same. They creep it up very quickly. When I came to New York City, the price of a train, I believe, was around $1 when I came here, maybe $1.25 in 1999. Now it's $2.90. $2.90, almost $3, and it will be $3. I mean, they just didn't do that because, I don't know, they didn't want to hit the $3 mark. And it used to be said that the price of a train or a subway or a bus was equivalent to the price of a slice of pizza. And now a slice of pizza is $3. So if you go somewhere, a slice of cheese pizza is $3. Now, why is it $3? Has the ingredients gone up? No, it's the price of rent they have to pay to be at that pizza establishment. And because of that, that's probably increased the price of the dough, the flour, the salt, the yeast, the tomatoes, the tomato paste, the cheese. All that goes up because then it costs more to bring it into the city. Fuel costs. Something I never used to see on our bills was fuel surcharge. What's this? Now you're going to charge us for the fuel? How did this become an add-on? See, everything wants to be added on as opposed to like, this is the price for the thing you agreed to pay for. Okay, I agreed to that. Well, what's this fuel surcharge? Oh, well, we do that for everybody now. We have to charge you. You have to charge me for the fuel, bring it in. Why is that not just included in the price of your product? But again, the city right now, when it gets rainy, snowy, or some event is happening, like the UN General Assembly, which I live near there, it becomes gridlock, and then the honking becomes insane. The cry for helps. And right now there is so much crying for help out there, and it has to be addressed. And in a way, I may speak on this in a different episode, but we have to look towards good tickets. And someone driving in a car with an even license plate, ends with an even number, on an odd number day, that's a good ticket. That's saying, look, we all agreed that we didn't want to pay congestion pricing. We didn't want to have one more cost added to the back of the camels that we are, that are just one more straw breaks the camel's back. But eventually one straw will break the camel's back. Every straw breaks the camel's back, they say, right? There are these light little pieces of straw. But when you pack all this straw on the back of a camel, and eventually you put one more piece of straw on his back or her back, it breaks. And so at what point are we going to go, what are we going to do about just keep adding charges? So odd, even, basically it would cut the traffic in half in one day. And then you'd have to have people out there giving tickets, which creates a job as well. And somebody may also say, I don't care. If the ticket is $50 or whatever it becomes, $100 for driving a vehicle on a day when you're not allowed to, someone may say, it's worth it. It's worth it to me. You know what? Fine. 3 days a week, I drive. The other 3 days, I get a $50 ticket. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they don't catch me. And then you've got, what'll probably end up happening is they'll pay people to get cameras out and take pictures of people and turn those pictures in, because that's what they want to also do. They want to turn us into citizen snitches, like 311. 311 was supposed to be a helpline. It's really turned into a snitch line. And for those who are not afraid to become like KGB, I'm going to report you, rat you out, they'll make a living off of it. Apparently, you can make a living now off of taking pictures of cars parked in the bike lane with their license plate and then turn those in, and then the ticket is sent to that person. See, the city and probably all cities are subcontracting their jobs out to the citizens to go, hey, instead of us hiring more people and having to deal with paying them a weekly salary and payroll and health care, you, citizen, with a phone and a internet connection, take pictures for us, send them to us, we'll take that picture, we'll track the person down, we'll give them the ticket, which is unfortunate. We should not become a city and a world of snitches. We should just be able to be human with each other. We should be able to be brothers and sisters, citizens of a city, and not wonder, are you going to rat me out? Are you going to snitch on me? Now, for real stuff, absolutely. If someone is committing vandalism or a crime or hurting somebody. And I know I used to ride a bike in the city, but my bike, every time I had one, it got borrowed, if you know what I mean. And at a certain point, it became very precarious. And even though I wore a helmet, it just got to a point where I'm like, is it worth it? To ride a bike in the city? I don't know. It became so precarious, and now there are bike lanes, but it's still not easy. And as I've said before, if you ride a bike in this city, you've got my heart and you've got my mind. If you make a living on a bicycle, you've got my heart, my mind. If you make a living on a bicycle in the rain, I've got you. Bless your heart. Thank you, wherever you came from. However, the moment you're going the wrong way in the bike lane, you lose me. The moment you ride on the sidewalk, you lose me. And for that, I think you deserve to get a ticket. And that's why eventually all bike riders should have a registered bike and a license. And so when someone brings you and pulls you over, they know immediately, let me see your license, just like driving a car. Anything that is motorized should have a license like a car. That's where it needs to at least begin. If you are in or on a motorized vehicle, electric or otherwise, gas-powered, you need to have a license. You need to have gone through some training and some test, just like a driver's license to drive a vehicle, because you can also kill somebody on a bicycle, on a scooter, electric or motor. And we need to kind of draw a line in the sand and say, look, if you're on a motorized vehicle, maybe not an electric bike, but if you're on a gas-powered vehicle, you need to be in the car lane, not the bike lane, because you can go faster than 25 miles an hour, which is the speed limit in New York City. The speed limit across Manhattan, if I'm not mistaken, is 25 miles an hour. Now you can say, well, until you go 31, you won't get a ticket because they'll usually give you 5 miles. So you go up to 30, you're good. They're not going to pull you over and give you a ticket for 30. But at 31, they're going to give you a ticket for 6 miles over the speed limit. That has to also count for bicycles and electric bikes and motorized bikes in the bike lane. But one thing we've got to wrap our heads around right now is, are we going to become a third world city by having people ride around chaotically? You've seen pictures and videos of other countries with their bicycles and their traffic circles and just the chaos. They have simply just either given up, don't care, don't have the resources, accepted that's just how the way we do it here. That's just the way we drive. We drive chaotically. We don't care because we just don't have the resources. We don't have the manpower, and we don't have the way to really, I would say, enforce it. But it has to be enforced. And you need police officers to be able to enforce this. And the police need to be given the power and the authority to be police. Yes, they're here to serve and protect. But protect us also from crazy drivers, crazy bicyclists, people on the sidewalk bicycling, scootering on the sidewalk. See, again, there are things I will repeat in the various podcasts or whatever you want to call these recordings about becoming mayor of New York, or even basically doing a soft kind of inquiry or search of should I run, and run to what end? What's the goal? The goal, I guess, would be able to be up there on a debate stage with other people running for mayor to say things in front of the city of New York and the other mayors that eventually, hopefully, they get implemented. Whether I get elected mayor or not, I think is kind of not inconsequential and irrelevant, because I think the mayor right now, he's doing the best he can. See, I don't want to speak ill of anybody because I know how hard it is to just run small businesses in New York. I can't even imagine trying to run a city, and really 5 cities, because as I've said, New York City is 5 cities, 5 different boroughs. And each of those boroughs can be a city. And there are parts of this city that I don't know if I've ever even seen. I mean, I've been to each of the boroughs, but I mean, how can you really learn about a place unless you live there? Even Manhattan, like, I primarily stay where I work and where I live. Sometimes I'll take trips to other parts of Manhattan, but we end up living where we live. I remember once we moved from 44th Street and 2nd Avenue to 48th Street and 2nd Avenue, and I went around saying goodbye to people like I was getting on a ship going to a new world where I'd never see them again. I went by to my dry cleaner and said, hey, we're moving to 48th. And thank you, man. I appreciate it. I'll see you around. And I literally never saw those people again. I never went back to that dry cleaner. I found a new dry cleaner. I never went back to the grocery stores in that area. And we were 4 blocks away from 44th to 48th on the same avenue, basically, between 2nd and 3rd. And that's New York City. And that's why I'm a big proponent of keep your side of the street clean. We can't wait for anybody to come to help us. The cavalry is not coming. We are the cavalry. You are the cavalry. You, whoever is listening to this, has to take it upon yourself to clean outside your building, clean outside your place of work. You have to take it upon yourself to say, how can we paint these mailboxes? What color paint is that? Let me take a chip to Benjamin Moore or Home Depot or Lowe's and say, hey, what's a close color to this green mailbox? And they'll probably tell you hunter green. Some of them are army green, but I think you can't go wrong with a hunter green. And with one of those like roller, paintbrush, pan kits for like, I don't know, $9.95 and a can of paint, you know, you could probably knock out 3, 4, 5, 6 mailboxes in your area. And I'd be surprised if anybody said anything to you. And if they did, they'd probably say thank you. You know, you need a piece of blue tape to put over the lock that the mail carriers have to open to put the, you know, stuff they put inside of it. But we can't wait for someone to come paint these mailboxes. It's just not going to happen. Sometimes they get painted by somebody. There's some kind of local community cleanup crews, but we really have to take it upon ourselves. But again, I'm getting off track because this one was supposed to be about congestion and congestion pricing. And I'm not even talking about like what it costs to go from New Jersey to New York and how much they charge you. I think, and I have to look this up, it might be $20-some. And we really also have to kind of look at this in terms of like, we're not only all in this together in terms of the 5 boroughs, we have to look at it in terms of the tri-state area. We have to also be in it with New Jersey and Connecticut and the states that are closest to us and say, hey, how can we work together? How can we not make it so punitive to travel between our states and our cities? You know, eventually in some places, the private sector will come in and they'll say, hey, like they did in Chicago, we'll take over this route. We'll buy it from you. You'll make a lump sum. Then we'll charge people. We'll take care of it for you. And a city will take the short money and the big stack poker, which is usually large funds of money. They'll make the long money and they'll make it in perpetuity. Now, if we're going to do that, then we should start, and again, this will be a topic for another day, we should start not selling off, but licensing off different parts of subways, stations, and bringing in the private sector to take over and say, look, you've got a lease on the subway for 5 years. And in exchange for that, you'll pay the city, but you'll get to advertise this as your subway stop. Now, again, this is, another topic for another day. But when I start thinking about the city, I have to think about it in terms of how are we going to fix this? How are we going to make it a paradise on earth for all of us? Because I love New York City. I don't know, the buildings, the energy, the walking around, the different faces. And if I could make a living as a portrait photographer doing nothing but taking iPhone portraits all day long and cropping them, and I really love that black background in the portrait mode, I'd be pretty happy doing that, although I'd also be happy being on a tennis court all day, coaching young kids or in tennis. I can only take them to a certain point. I could probably coach, kids up till high school level, and then probably high school players could probably beat me, But I don't know if you have to be a better player than someone to be a coach. I've seen a lot of great documentaries recently about coaches, who were not as good as players, so they got into coaching and their players are better than them, but somehow they can look and tell them what they're doing wrong as a coach. And I heard a coach the other day in this documentary saying that I don't coach players, I coach teams, right? So in a city, it's about coaching the city, not coaching players in the city. How do we coach a whole city to say, look, we are in this together? Again, in some way, you'd have to have somebody to translate what you're saying, so the most of the languages that are in a city can understand what you're saying. So we'd have to say things in kind of, I would say, sound bites. Your city is my city. My city is your city. We are in this together. We are brothers and sisters. We are on earth at the same time. There have been 100 billion people on Earth since the beginning of time. There are 8 billion people on Earth right now. There are 8 million New Yorkers right now. That's not that many in the big scheme of things. We are all here together, us 8 million. 20% of the people cause 80% of the problems. Are you going to be part of the 20% causing 80% of the problems? Or are you going to be part of the 80% trying to do the right thing by throwing garbage in a garbage can? By doing the right thing best you can, answering to your better angels. What are you going to do? Right now, as you hear on this Friday night as I'm speaking, it's a fire truck coming right through. And as I said, I'd like to wrap this up in 29 minutes and 59 seconds because I think it's important for whatever people do to find the right spoonful. I may have lost people already. I may already have people who are have checked out, not interested. Maybe no one's going to listen to this. And maybe it's just for me to listen to so that I can kind of begin saying these things out loud, practicing to go, is this something I want to think about doing? Because as I said, I can't be president. I don't really want to be a senator or a congressperson. But mayor of New York, it would be pretty cool. It would be pretty cool to try to help the city you love become the best shiny city on the hill. Well, all right, as I said, I didn't want to go over 29 minutes and 59 seconds, and I'm going to cut out here pretty soon so that when you look at this on your YouTube or wherever you listen to, you'll see this is only 29 minutes and 59 seconds, and I'm out, and I do love New York City.